What's going on, NEM crew? Welcome to another Datsun based video. Watch it, jeez. Alright, so in this video we're going to be going over winterizing this beast. Now, you guys might be thinking, well, you're not driving in the winter, are you? If you are driving in the winter, you're probably insane. Well, I'm not driving in the winter, but there are some things that I still want to go over and cover before you put something into storage. So yes, there is still winter prep on a car that's going into storage. A little bit different with this because the car is going to be worked on during the winter. It's not going to be something that you put on stands, it's never going to move, and that's it. So we still want to be able to keep the car semi-mobile. We're not going to be moving it through snow, like from location to location in snow, but we may need to move it, do little things like that. So we're not going to block it up and put it on stands and take the wheels off and do all this fancy stuff with it, but there are some things that you want to make sure before the weather gets really cold. And that's the main concern that I have, is that it's really cold. If you checked out our rad installation video on this pig, you probably saw that we just put water into the actual cooling system. We didn't put any coolant, any antifreeze, anything like that. So once the weather gets cold, if we left that water in there, or if we leave that water in there, it's going to freeze, and you're going to run into big issues if you go and start it, or it's going to cause issues with the cooling system. So you don't want to have just water in there. So in this video we're going to go over drain the water, put coolant in there, that way we don't have any issues with freezing. Now another thing you want to just look at as well is if you have car cover. Another thing we can talk about is gasoline. Do you want to leave the gasoline empty, like the tank empty? Do you want to leave it full? Now a lot of people have different opinions on that. The best way that I found, if you're going to leave the fuel in there, is to leave the tank full, because if you leave it empty, with the weather being cold and the humidity levels and things like that, you're going to have condensation building up in the tank, and that can lead to rust. But a lot of things, it can lead to bad fuel when you actually go and start it ever so often, which is something that you should do, is start it every I would say week or two. And there's a plane, so I have to yell, but I would say leave the tank full. That way there's no room for condensation to build. The tank is completely full with fuel, and then what I would do is add a little bit of fuel stabilizer to that as well, so the fuel doesn't go bad over time. So those are my thoughts. In this video it's going to be mainly just the coolant switch on it. So let's do it. So when you're working on anything with the engine, that's oil, coolant, anything that you're going to be getting really close to the engine or any of the accessories around it, you want to make sure that the engine is not hot. Warm is okay, but you don't want to risk burning yourself. First thing, make sure the engine's cooled down. Now the rad cap could have pressure. Like you just saw, the engine was running. I didn't let it get to the point where it was really hot, but it got it warm. So you want to always check, make sure, release the pressure in the system. See that little, you heard that little spurt? There's a little bit of pressure built up in there. So that's also going to make it a lot easier when we take the drain plug out on the bottom. It's not going to have built up pressure and spray everywhere. You want to make sure that if you have a car that has coolant in it and you are draining it, that you want to dispose of the contents properly. Now, like I said, my car just has water in it, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to drain it onto the driveway, and that's it. The system is, it's just water, so you don't have to worry about it hurting the environment or doing any damage. So let's do that. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of pressure in there just from the water being in there, but if there's any excess pressure from the car being really hot and everything expanding, you can see that you probably get hot coolant all over you, which isn't really the ideal situation. We're going to go ahead and mix it. And pretty much your next steps are, once you mix it in here, is fill it up, and then you want to burp the system. After you burp the system, make sure there's no air pockets and everything's good. Then you just want to drive the car. You're good to go. Put your rad cap back on, make sure your overflow is filled, and you're good to go. So let's fill this up. Alright, so now we got the coolant in. The next step is to burp the cooling system. So we're going to start the car, let it get up to temperature, and hopefully once the coolant starts running through the motor, it will get rid of all those air pockets and stuff like that. You can help it out by blurping the throttle or just keeping it at a steady RPM. Not too high, obviously, because you don't want to roast your motor going 7,000 RPM for 5 minutes. So let's start it up, let's get it up to temperature, and then hopefully we'll get everything burped and we can drive it again. Perfect, and it will not freeze now because there's coolant in it. So when you do this, you want to make sure that you keep an eye on the temperature gauge. Obviously, if your temps go up past where they should be, that's not really a good thing. So keep an eye on temperature, and also keep an eye, make sure nothing's leaking. We put that drain plug back in, and those are usually hand tight. You don't want to use anything more than that. So don't strip that, because then you're gonna have issues. Especially the one that I took off is metal. You're gonna have to, if you strip the threads that go into the actual radiator, that's not a good thing. So just be careful with that. Alright guys, so the system is fully burped. Now I took it for a quick drive to make sure that there's no issues, keeping an eye on the temperature gauge, and everything seems to be good. So this is kind of like the first step of getting this car prepped for the cold weather and getting into storage. So there's going to be a few more videos coming showing what else that we do to the Datsun to make sure that it's all good for the cold weather and for storage. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, and as always, stay classy, crew. Peace out.